Well, good evening, everyone, and welcome to the John Kentera Show on YouTube, San Diego Sports Talk. Well, it came to an end for our San Diego Padres on Friday night at Dodger Stadium. The Dodgers' second straight game where they shut out our San Diego Padres. In fact, they set a new a franchise record in postseason play. 24 scoreless innings the Dodger pitching staff threw up against our San Diego Padres. Padres had that big 6-run inning in Game 3 with 6 runs in the second inning. They never scored after that. Dodgers went bullpen by committee on Thursday night, shut the Padres out 8-0, shut them out tonight 2-0. They get home runs from Kike Hernandez and Teoscar Hernandez, and that's all Yoshi Yamamoto and the relief corps for the Dodgers needed tonight. The Dodger pitching was absolutely unbelievable in this series, absolutely incredible. I mean, Yamamoto, they were hoping to get 3 out of him, and he ended up cruising through five innings, 2 hits, no runs, a walk, a strikeout. He faced 17 batters, only 2 over the minimum, and then they turned it over to Evan Phillips, who looked really sharp. An inning and 2/3, 3 strikeouts, really made Manny Machado look bad at the plate when he went against him. And Manny did not have a good game tonight, nor did he have a good game in Game 4. We'll talk more about the Padre offense a little bit later on in the program. Alex Vesia came in and struck out Jackson Merrill to finish the 7th. He came out to start the 8th and hurt himself and had to leave. Well, Dodgers brought in Michael Kopech, throwing 102 miles an hour tonight. He went the 1 inning with a strikeout, and then Blake Trinan retired the Padres in order in the top half of the 9th. Dodgers move on to their 16th NLCS. And bottom line, this is a year where the Padres, they could have done it. They had the team to do it. And this was the year really to catch the Dodgers because of all their injuries with their pitching staff. Freddie Freeman, less than 100%. Miguel Rojas didn't play either of the last 2 games of starting shortstop. Dodgers were really scuffling on the mound. But you got to give Dave Roberts and the Dodger front office a lot of credit. They came up with a fantastic game plan, and they did the Padres in. I mean, seriously, after the ball game on Tuesday night, you had to feel really good. I mean, the Padres were playing great baseball. Everything was going their way, and then all of a sudden, boom, the brakes got put on that offense. 24 scoreless innings. Who would have ever thought that out of this Padre offense? I mean, seriously, it was unbelievable. But Yamamoto, you got to give him credit. Here's a guy that came over, signed a long-term deal for $320 million. He went 7-2 during the regular season, under 3 ERA, but missed, several months of the baseball season. And the Padres got to him in that first game when he pitched. He went 3 innings and gave up, 5 runs? Padres hit him like they owned him. He went out there tonight and was just absolutely on fire. But you know what? Really, the guy that I thought threw even better, he ended up taking the loss tonight. I mean, Yamamoto was good. Don't get me wrong. I mean, Padres couldn't score off him. But Darvish went out there and threw one hell of a game tonight. And he got no support whatsoever. I mean, Darvish's numbers tonight, 6 2/3, 3 hits, 2 runs, a walk, 4 strikeouts, gave up the 2 home runs. If I'd have told you before the game started that Darvish would go 6 2/3 and give up 2 runs, wouldn't you have taken that? I certainly would with the Padre offense. I figured they're going to bounce back after getting shut out by 8 different relievers the other night. I thought the Padres would come back tonight and get the job done. They didn't even come close. I mean, the closest they came, they got a walk. By the way, they only had 3 base runners all night. They got a walk by Xander Bogaerts in the second. And then with 1 out, they get a Kyle Higashioka base hit. Then Arives gets a base hit. So you got runners on first and second. You got Fernando coming up. And he hits into a 5-4-3 inning-ending double play. And that was the last base runner the Padres had. The Dodgers, between Yamamoto and the relief corps, they retired the final 19 Padre hitters. I mean, no walks or anything in there. They retired 19 straight Padre hitters. And a lot of balls weren't hit all that well. They really weren't hit well. But Darvish threw a heck of a game. I mean, I was telling my wife, we were watching the game. I mean, if young pitchers were watching this guy throw tonight, they could have learned a hell of a lot. And I know everybody bags on John Smoltz, but you know what? If you really pay attention to what John Smoltz is talking about, you can learn a lot of baseball, folks, if you really listen. I mean, he is unbelievable. And even my wife, who doesn't know a lot about baseball, I mean, she loves the Padres and watches all the ball games with me and listens to the post game show for years when I was doing it. She said, "Man, this guy's brilliant." And you know, I have to live. I know baseball pretty damn well, and I've been around great baseball people. Sometimes Smoltz will talk over your head, and you got to really pay attention to what he's saying. But tonight, it was unbelievable watching those two pitchers from Japan go at it. Absolutely incredible performance by both guys tonight. And you know, the Dodgers are going to move on. I don't know how the Dodgers are going to do because this New York Mets team is really loaded for bear right now. They're really on a mission. It's going to be a great series, no question about it. But this was the year the Padres could have got the Dodgers. Padres second best regular season record in franchise history. They win 93 games. And the other thing that I want to point out, and I wrote this down a few weeks ago when the regular season was over, and I got to remember this number. The final attendance figure for the regular season, and I know the postseason, you couldn't get into Petco Park with a shoehorn. But during the regular season, 80 games. Remember, the one game was in Korea. They had 80 games at Petco Park this year, and you fans were absolutely incredible. I'm so proud of my hometown, the way you supported this ball club. 3,314,593. What an incredible year at Petco Park. And it was a very good year. I'm not going to say great, because a great year to me is when you win the division title and you go to the World Series. That's great. Okay. This was a very, very good, exciting, fun, entertaining year. Very good. But 93 wins, you know what? We can do better. We can do better. And I know that's the most wins in A.J. Preller's tenure as a general manager, and I want to congratulate A.J. He put together a really, really nice ball club this year. It wasn't easy. It wasn't easy. Some things fell into his lap, namely Luis Arraez, considering the Miami Marlins are paying Arraez's salary for this year. And by the way, Arraez is under contract next year, so I'm sure he'll be back. Unless the Padres decide to trade him, I don't think they will. I look right now at this Padre ball club. You've got Arraez can be your leadoff hitter. Fernando, hopefully, you can get him back for an entire year. I've been waiting for that since his rookie year, to where he plays an entire year and you can see what this guy can do. We haven't seen that. As a fan, we've been robbed. He hasn't been able to stay healthy, and then he had the PED suspension. And he missed significant time. The only year he really stayed healthy was the COVID year, where they played 60 games and he played in 59 of them. I don't know what you do with Profar. Profar is going to be very interesting for me. And I'm going to tell you why. Because what's he, 31? He had a career year, but man, you look at his numbers down the stretch, they evaporated. I know he had the second best on base percentage behind Ohtani in the National League. But you look at his chart, August, September, boy, things started to really unravel for him. Be interesting. He was working for $1 million plus some bonus money. I don't know what you do with Profar. That's going to be a tough one. That's going to be a tough one. I'd like to see Jerkson back, but you can't give him a lot of money. And then you got Manny hitting there in the cleanup spot. You got Jackson Merrill, who feel very comfortable about. The kid's only going to get better. But, how do you look at this season? Seriously, how do you look at this season right now? Tonight is disappointing. We're going to be talking a lot about this going forward. Now it's the offseason. The Padres are done. We can sit here and do the post-mortem on this game. They got beat by a better ball club tonight. And they had their opportunity. They were up 2-1 in the series, and they quit scoring. You can't win unless you score. 24 straight innings. I can't get over that. I cannot get over that they could not find a way to score a run in 24 innings. That's almost next to impossible, isn't it? But how do you look at this season? I think it was a fun season. I think it was a much needed season for us fans and you folks that are going to the ballpark night and day. I mean, it's been incredible. But tonight was a downer. The other night was a downer. Last night they play at Petco, they get shut out 8-0 by 8 different pitchers. And then tonight, I mean, they were 0 for 1 with runners in scoring position tonight. But so were the Dodgers. Problem was, Dodger pitchers were better than the Padre pitchers, even though Darvish was fantastic. And the bullpen guys came in. They did a nice job. They gave up 2 runs and they got beat. I mean, when you give up 2 runs near the San Diego Padres, you expect to do more than that. I mean, between Machado and Profar, they were awful the last 2 games. They were, one for, what I wrote it down here. The last 2 games between your number 3 and number 4 hitter, they were 1 for 13. 1 for 13. How about that? Profar 0 for 3 tonight, 1 for 4 in the game they got beat the other night. Manny 0 for 3 tonight with a strikeout. And in the other game where they got beat 8-0, he was 0 for 4 with 2 strikeouts. So Manny in the final 2 games, 0 for 7 and 3 strikeouts. So your 3-4 guys didn't get it done. Cronenworth was awful. Let's be honest. Cronenworth was awful. He ended up 3 for 22 in the postseason. One of them an infield hit. He didn't do anything. And his numbers were awful the final 3 months of the year. He had 196, 260, and 184 the final 3 months. July, August, and September. 186, 260, and 184. 196, 196. I mean, that's awful. I mean, you got to get better. He went from being the 3rd hitter and the 5th hitter down to the 8th hitter. He's under a long-term contract. What do you do with Cronenworth? I don't know. I really don't know. I mean, they got a lot of things they got to figure out. I mean, will guys like David Peralta, Donovan Solano going to be back? I tend to doubt it. Higashioka going to be back next year? Who's going to be the catching core next year? You're talking right now. You know who the infield's going to be for the most part. Rise comes back. Cronenworth will be back. Bogarts, Machado, outfield, left field, another question mark. Profar coming back. Merrill's going to be out there for a long period of time, and Fernando and Wright. You got to figure out Joe Musgrove ain't going to be back next year. He's not going to pitch till 2026. You got Michael King. You got Dylan Cease, who was less than superlative in the postseason in his 2 starts. Wasn't very good. Martin Perez, a free agent. I mean, Darvish will be back, and hopefully he'll be able to stay healthy for an entire season. I mean, you got a lot of decisions to be made, and I guarantee AJ's already working the phones. He's already trying to figure out what he's going to do in 2025. I want to tell you about our sponsors, and I want to thank all of our sponsors for everything they brought to the table. Grangetto's Farm and Garden Supply, fantastic people, community people, very involved with our high schools, very involved with Future Farmers of America. And if you would, go to their website. Website's fantastic. Go to their website. They got 3 locations, Escondido, Encinitas, and Fallbrook. And I want you to sign up for their newsletter. Sign up for their newsletter. It'll come in your inbox twice a month, and they'll really give you some great tips. And more than anything else, they're great people. They care about the city of San Diego. They're huge Padres fans, and we thank them very much for being a part of the John Kentera Show, San Diego Sports Talk on YouTube. So Grangetto's Farm and Garden Supply, and make sure when you go in, tell the folks there, hey, I heard you about you on the Coach John Kentera's program. Really appreciate that. And by the way, if you're tuning in for the first time, really appreciate if you would subscribe to our program. It's free of charge, folks. And I've had a lot of people say to me, Coach, what are you going to do now that Padres season's over? People have been asking me the last few weeks. We're going to keep this going. And I'm not sure exactly what time we're going to go live. We'll probably do some tape shows as well. But, we're going to talk about off-season Padres. We're going to talk about the Aztecs, football, basketball. We'll talk about USD, UCSD. We'll talk about the San Diego Clippers playing up there at the new Front Wave Arena. We got a lot of fun things to look forward to. So we're not going away, but stay tuned. We'll be making some announcements on what our next shows will be. I'm sorry this is going to be our last, pretty much solely a Padres show, but it's the way it goes. Got beat by a better ball club tonight. It's that simple. And you know what? Like I've said since I was a little boy in 1969, there's always next year. But tonight was disappointing. I thought we'd show up. I didn't know if we would win tonight, but I thought we would give a little bit better fight than we did. After the Dodgers, boy, that 1-run lead when Kike Hernandez hit that home run, it seemed like it was like a 4-run lead the way the Padres were swinging the bat. And then when Teoscar Hernandez hit his home run, it seemed like it was like a 7-0 ball game, and it was a 2-0 lead. Needed to get a leadoff runner on. We could never get a leadoff runner on. You know that the Padres did not have a leadoff runner on the entire game? Man, I can't tell you how frustrated I was watching that game. Big Red Journeys. The answer is always next year. Yeah, always someday. Why can't it be this year? Why can't it be now? I love this team, and I'll continue to be a season ticket holder, but I can't help but express pain. I'm with you. And like I said at the beginning of the show tonight, this was the damn year to get the Dodgers. I mean, you know what? They're talking about firing Dave Roberts. They're talking about how this team was a disappointment. They won 98 ball games, and they lost a bunch of pitchers. I wrote down all the pitchers that they don't have on their roster. It's you can't believe it. I mean, it's incredible. Let me see if I can find it. I was writing it down during the game tonight. Okay, this is why the Dodgers have no pitching, yet they beat us 3 out of 5. No Clayton Kershaw, no Tyler Glasnow, no Gavin Stone, no Tony Gonsolin, Joe Kelly coming out of the bullpen throwing 100 miles an hour. He's done for the year. No Dustin May, no Emmett Sheehan, no Bobby Miller. I mean, all those guys were supposed to factor in being starters for the Dodgers, and Kershaw pitched a little bit. Glasnow, pitched a good sum. Gavin Stone, did really well, and then he went down. Bobby Miller was awful. They had to send him to the minor leagues, but he's got a big league arm. Dustin May, we know he's had all kinds of physical issues, let alone Tommy John surgery. He had that esophagus problem. And Emmett Sheehan, Tommy John, Gonsolin returning from Tommy John next year. This was the year we could have got him. We could have got him this year, and we rolled over and played dead the last 2 games. I just don't get it. I just don't get it. You got to, the most amazing thing the other night about that Dodger win at Petco Park is every time the bullpen gate opens up, you don't know how that guy's going to pitch. And they ran 8 guys out there the other night, and they all stuck it up our tailpipe. Jeez, cripes. I don't know, man. I'm irritated, but I also know the Dodgers are damn good. But I thought we had them on the ropes. I really did. I thought we had them on the friggin' ropes this year. I really did. I mean, we beat them. We go 8-5 during the regular season, and then we, lose the first game, come back, win 2, and win them in great fashion. And then all of a sudden, we quit playing. It was unbelievable to me. Talk about pressing. Manny swinging at pitches in the other batter's box. Ivan, I couldn't agree with you more. He looked terrible at the plate. He hit 2 deep fly balls to right field tonight, but at the end of the day, there's only 2 good fly balls that I know of in baseball. One that goes over the wall, and the other with a guy on third and less than 2 outs. Hit some line drives. We couldn't hit line drives. I mean, how many line drives did the Padres hit tonight? I mean, they hit a humpback line drive. I think to Tommy Edman, one of the guys did, but they didn't hit the ball hard tonight. I mean, Fernando beat it into the ground a couple of times. And I'm not going to get on the players. I mean, those guys are trying. They're not trying to go out there and be bad. Dodgers were just better tonight. And I hate to tip my cap. That's the problem. I hate tipping my cap, especially in the postseason. Every once in a while during the regular season, the guy will go out there 8 and shut you down. You got to tip your cap to him. I don't really want to tip my cap tonight, but I have to because they went out there. They executed their game plan to perfection. In fact, better than perfection because Yamamoto was only supposed to go 3 innings, but he was cruising. He faced only 2 over the minimum through 5, and then they turned it over to the bullpen, and the bullpen was fantastic. I've been saying all along, Dodgers got all kinds of problems in their starting rotation, and we know that, and that's not going to change this year. They're not getting guys back. But I said the Padre bullpen is more electric. They've got dudes that can flat out bring it. But I said the Dodger bullpen is more consistent than the Padre bullpen. Our guys, when they go out there, when they're on, they're unhittable. But the Dodger guys, or more consistent night in and night out, and they proved it tonight. They were really good. Our bullpen was good tonight too, but they didn't really have much of an opportunity because Darvish did a heck of a job. But man, Evan Phillips, who really, he was a closer for the Dodgers early in the year, and he was so bad for a while, they had to set him down. They had to sit him down for a while. In fact, I think he went on the IL for a while. And Blake Trinan, he's had a hard time staying healthy for about the last 3 years, but he looks fantastic now. Vesia, I'm going to tell you, if Vesia can't pitch in the next series, Dodgers are in trouble in that bullpen because Vesia is tough. And he really is dynamic. He's a kid from San Diego, by the way. You know what? The other thing, and, we know Dave Roberts is from Rancho Buena Vista. Mark Pryor, the pitching coach, is from Old University High School. Alex Vesia from Alpine. He went to Steel Canyon. Tommy Edman went to La Jolla Country Day, played for his dad. John Edman, great guy. Great mom and dad Tommy Edman has. And then Bob Guerin, who's in that dugout with Dave Roberts. Great player at Claremont High for the great Ernie Beck. Been around baseball a long time. A lot of San Diego flavor on that Dodger ball club with coaches and players as well. Jaime Alvarez. Darvish didn't deserve this. He's such a good pitcher. You know what? I knew this a long time ago about Darvish. Once he got here, I didn't know a lot about you when he got here. But over the last 3-4 years, I've found out a lot about this guy. And I got to tell you, folks, he's a pro's pro. He was dealing with some off-field situation this year, and I'm not going to get into what it was, but he's told the Padres, I got to take time off. I can't do this right now. I got to deal with some family stuff. And Padres, I guess they could have paid him if they wanted to, but Darvish goes, I'll go on the restricted list. You don't have to pay me. And I know that when he gets done pitching a game, it's like right back into getting ready for the next start. Now, if he pitched tonight and he had another start in 5 days, I guarantee he would already be doing what he needs to do to feel better tomorrow and the next day and get ready for his next outing. Him and Musgrove are both great guys. Great guys. I don't know you at all. I know Joe, I think fairly well. Being a San Diego guy, and I know his family, great family. But those two guys are really the leaders of that bullpen or that starting staff, I think. I'll be interested to see what happens with Martin Perez. Martin Perez pitched very well. And you could do a lot worse for a fifth starter next year. I mean, Cease is coming back. He's got one more year under contract. And then Michael King will be here for a while. And Michael King, I hope he can rebound. He threw a lot of innings this year. And a lot of times when guys throw a lot of innings, they've never thrown that many innings the following year, it kind of bites them a little bit. And I don't think that'll be the case because I think he takes pretty good care of himself. Ivan, those long-term contracts like Cronin, Cronin was horrible most part of the year. And Xander, he never showed up at all. Well, I got news for you. Xander's going to be here 9 more years. Unless, you think anybody's going to take that contract? Huh? I like Xander Bogaerts, but I'm not going to tell you what I think he needs to do publicly. But if I ever had a chance to visit with him, I'd tell him a couple of things that I think he should do this offseason. But that's not my place. I like him a lot. He's a good pro, but he got to get better. He got to get back to being the old Xander Bogaerts of Boston. And you know what? The thing that scares me, and I scouted professionally for a while with Kansas City and the Marlins many years ago. And one of the things I learned from veteran scouts is when a guy has 2 consecutive bad years, you got to start really worrying about him. And I don't necessarily think he had terrible years. They just aren't what we expected. I mean, they're good for a lot of guys, but not for a guy like Xander Bogaerts and for the contract he signed. So we'll have to wait and see it. I mean, is he going to be the shortstop next year after they took him off this year? What are they going to do? They're going to try to even make an offer to Ha-Seong Kim? I don't know. Cronenworth's got to get better. I mean, Cronenworth, you watch that front elbow, which is his right elbow. It's always going up in the air. You can't hit like that. You got to stay on top of the baseball. I mean, that's just fundamentals 101 hitting. His balance is off at the plate. He can't get the barrel through the hitting area. I mean, it's unbelievable. The guy looks like he's forgot how to hit at the plate. And he's better than that. I don't know what he's thinking about doing, but he's better than that. But Ivan, thank you very much. And man, I'll tell you what, Ivan, look like you're grilling up something pretty good. I like that. Hey, let me tell you about our other big sponsor, Your Reliable Home Buyers. Great people. Josh Messiah, who I worked with many years ago in the radio business. Great guy. Buying, selling, you need financing. And let's face it, financing can be a real pain in the rear end, big time. But yourreliablehomebuyers.com, they'll buy, they'll sell, they'll buy old, ugly homes, by the way, and they'll give you cash. If maybe, for some reason you need to sell your home for whatever reason, maybe, a family situation, or you need to move out of town quickly, they'll give you cash, folks. They'll give you cash. Go to their website, check them out, yourreliablehomebuyers.com. And also, I'm going to write this number down. Write it down, and don't forget, if you need help, call them bright and early Monday morning, 858-422-4116. That's 858-422-4116. When I played baseball, I was a catcher, first baseman. I love to hit. And when I got my first coaching job in college, was a junior college coach at Maricosta College. And I got hired by a guy named John Seeley. John Seeley coached Chris Chambliss. He coached Kevin Towers. He coached Doc Edwards, all guys that, played in the big leagues. Ray Smith from Vista High, who caught for the Minnesota Twins in the big leagues. And I'll never forget, Coach Seeley asked me, he was recruiting a bunch of my players at Torrey Pines, and we'd gone out to lunch. And we came back to school and dropped off the 5 players that he was recruiting from my school. And before I got out, he goes, "John, I'd like to talk to you." And so I goes, "Sure, Coach." So I sat in the car. He goes, "I'd like you to come up and be the pitching coach next year at Maricosta." And I said, and I'd coached 3 years at Torrey Pines. I'd worked mostly with hitters and infielders and, dabbled a little bit working with pitchers. And I said, "Coach, I never really worked a whole lot with pitchers." And he said to me, he goes, "You know what? You damn well better learn." And that was my introduction to college coaching, was I better damn well learn. And I went out and I talked to the best guys I could find here in San Diego. I talked to Roger Craig and went to a bunch of coaches conventions and learned a lot about pitching. And watching tonight's game, from all the things that I learned over the years, pitching is all about changing speeds and upsetting the rhythm and timing of the hitter. And watching you, Darvish, tonight was, it was really a clinic. And you're not going to always win when you pitch well because your team's not going to give you support. And that's what happened tonight. But that was a real clinic. And for a lot of you coaches out there, whether you're high school coaches, college coaches, youth league coaches, obviously kids can't repeat their delivery and do the things that Darvish is doing. But if you're a young aspiring coach and you've got some good young pitchers in high school, junior college, 4-year ball, go back and really go back and look at tonight's game and evaluate what Darvish was doing. I remember years ago when I was a kid and I'd listen to Don Drysdale, God rest his soul. He used to always talk about putting a little on, take a little off. And, it's changing speeds. Don't throw the same pitch twice in a row in the same location at the same speed. Move it around. Don't be predictable. And Darvish just put on a clinic tonight. Yamamoto was great, but I like the way Darvish mixed and matched tonight. And, of course, like John Smoltz says, he's never seen a guy that can manipulate a baseball, make it do different things better than you, Darvish. That's a high compliment because guys like Greg Maddux, who Smoltz played with, could do a lot of crazy things with a baseball. But, you deserved a better fate tonight, and that's unfortunate. Jesus Gutierrez, boy, that guy, I'll tell you what, he sounds like a great middle infielder, Jesus Gutierrez. Heartbroken loss, feels like this was the year. I agree with you, Jesus, on that. Darvish is a stud and a great human being, absolutely 100%. Absolutely. And, it's going to be very interesting to see where this team is going forward because I really think we had the roster this year. This, by far, was the best job that A.J. Preller did. Now, I'm not going to say that just because of the 93 wins. I'm going to say he had a complete roster. Probably not only me, but I think people around baseball always felt that, he went out and spent a lot of money on these name-type players, but he never really put together a complete roster. You always, would have young guys coming off the bench. And people that have listened to my radio program for a long time, I love veterans coming off the bench. And we had some good veterans coming off the bench this year with Solano, who got really cooled off in the postseason, but had a good year. Peralta had an outstanding year. Think about Peralta, how he stepped in at 37 years of age. Think about how David stepped in and did a great job. I mean, nobody was going to be able to replace Fernando out there in right field, but he did a hell of a job. Great team guy. He keeps himself in shape. Maybe they'll bring him back. I don't know. We'll have to wait and see. But, you got to see what's out there in free agency. Padres have to get better. They've got to get better. They're not where they need to be. They're good, but they're not great. And this was a good year. Mike Schilt did a great job, I think. But now, hey, we're on to year number 2. And you got postseason is over for the Padres. Offseason started, shortly after tonight's ball game was over. Ivan, I saw 23 swings for the fences. They just needed hit singles, get something going, but it's what it is. We lost. We will be supporting next year. Ivan, I'm going to tell you something. I got a couple of guys that text me constantly during games. And one of them tonight was so right on. He said we were playing hero ball a little bit. And, I think hero ball came into tonight. Number one, the Padres have swung the bat really well at Dodger Stadium the last few years. They really have. And I think hero ball came in tonight. There was a lot of frustration. I mean, like I said, when Kike Hernandez hit that home run, the folks at Dodger Stadium they lost their mind up there. And then Teoscar Hernandez hits one, and it felt like it was 7-0 because the Padres did nothing. They got one guy to second base tonight. One guy to second base. They had 3 base runners in a huge game. Dodgers only had 5, but they clubbed 2 balls over the fence. It was a rough one, but you know what, I can't disagree. There were a lot of 2023 swings tonight. I would agree with that. Okay, Omar Alonzo Castro. Omar, thank you very much. That's very kind of you. Very much appreciate that. Machado, Arise, Cease, and Profar had terrible postseasons. Throw Cronenworth in there as well. Have terrible postseason track records. If World Series is the goal, should we prioritize postseason play for offseason moves? Absolutely. I mean, you're not playing for the regular season. Now, I will tell you this. I'm kind of tired of the Dodgers winning the damn division title. I mean, think about this. The Dodgers have won the title 11 of the last 12 years. And the only year they didn't win it, the Giants had to set a franchise record of 107 wins, and the Dodgers only lost it by 1 game because they won 106. This was not a great year for the Dodgers record-wise. People were all up in arms. They figured the Dodgers, when they signed Ohtani and brought in Glass now and Yamamoto, they were going to win 120 games. I don't think the Dodgers ever planned on winning 120 games. The thing with Dave Roberts, he's been there 9 years. He's got an incredible record. And he's been to 3 World Series, won 1. Tommy Lasorda was there for 20 years. And they got to 4 World Series and won 2. So Dave's right on the heels of doing what Tommy Lasorda did, and he's got a lot better record percentage-wise than Tommy Lasorda. But, they were talking about replacing Dave Roberts and only 98 wins. Well, hell, the poor guy didn't have his pitching staff most of the year. And they still won 98, and they still won the most games in baseball this year, which I found that really hard to believe. Can you believe that one team won 100 games this year? That's been a while since that's happened. But no, Omar, Padres are going to have to really think about what they're going to do here because I don't know what the budget's going to be. They cut so much money this year on the payroll, and they put together, they fell into some guys. I mean, David Peralta, nobody even wanted to sign him. He signed with the Cubs, and he wasn't going to make the roster, so he asked out of his contract, and all of a sudden he found the fountain of youth here in San Diego. Solano was looking for a job. Profar was out there early in spring training. And, again, the thing with Profar, if you look at his numbers the last few months, they haven't gone well. So I'm anxious to see what kind of contract, number one, he's looking for. And number two, I'm anxious to see what the Padres would be willing to offer him. And then you got to figure out what you're doing behind the plate. I mean, Higashioka did a really, really nice job. 17 home runs, and he what 3 in the postseason. Did a great job, but he's a backup catcher. That's what he is, the backup catcher who got thrown into play here because Camposano lost his job. Is Camposano going to be back? Elias Diaz, I don't think they'll bring him back. 33-year-old backstop, didn't get much playing time while he was here. But, I understand that. Everybody was comfortable throwing to Higashioka. Totally get that. Well, I'll tell you what. We called the offseason the Hot Stove League. After them whetting our appetite this year with 93 wins and dispatching the Braves, and then really had a great chance to take out the Dodgers. And they just blew it. Absolutely blew it. I don't know. Maybe it was too big for this ball club. Maybe it was just too big for this team. Maybe the bright lights and the pressure, it was just too much. But you know what? They should be better for it going forward. Big Red Journeys. Thank you very much, Big Red. I very much appreciate that. I really appreciate that kindness. The fan experience at Petco has been the best it's ever been the last few years. But us fans need more than just a fun night out and $17 beers. We need a pennant and a ring. FYI, Coach, this is David Antone. David, you're a good man, my friend. I appreciate that. Yeah, I hear your pain. I remember, David, you used to come down and see me and Randy all the time at Lolita's. Boy, we had some damn good nights at Lolita's. I know they don't have as much fun with the pre and post game show like we did. We lived and breathed that. And, it was never really a job for me. We had a hell of a time. But David, good to hear from you. Hope all is well in your world and your family and everything's good. But thank you very, very much. But we got to find a way to get there. The other thing that's kind of interesting, we always talk about the Dodgers, the big payroll. And they do have a huge payroll. But you know what? They're going to be playing a team in the National League Championship Series that has a bigger payroll, the Mets. How about the Mets? Stephen Cohen. And who knows? They may go after our old buddy Juan Soto this offseason. I think that's going to be real interesting to see where Soto ends up. Does he go back to the Yankees or does he go to the New York Mets? I don't really care what team he goes with. I can't imagine too many other teams getting in the bidding war for Juan Soto. But, David, thanks again. Very much appreciate that. And $17 beers. Wow. Adrian Sanchez. Adrian, thank you very much. I appreciate that. Coach, I generally think it was fixed. In Game 4, they came out already looking defeated. The MLB has been wanting the New York, LA World Series. Damn shame. You know what? I don't think that's the case. I mean, I thought the umpiring tonight wasn't bad. There were a couple of pitches, really by both pitchers, I thought missed early in the game. But overall, I thought the umpiring, the base umpires didn't have hardly any calls. Any calls they had tonight were routine, basically. There really no close plays. I mean, the big play was a double play that Fernando hit into, and he was out by quite a bit. But you know what? You're right. Let's face it. They always want L.A., and they always want New York. There's no question. That way you've got both coasts. You got the number 1 and number 2 media markets in the country. That's slam dunk. The other thing that I would say, and I heard these guys talking about it. I've been listening to a lot of different baseball shows since the playoffs started. I'm kind of over us playing the Dodgers. As much as I love playing the Dodgers, got to mix it up a little bit. I'd like to see it mixed up. After that first round, I wouldn't mind seeing it reseeded a little bit. And, playing somebody else. Because it seems like every year now we're starting to get kind of the same teams playing one another. And I don't know if that's good for baseball. I really don't know if that's good for baseball. But, hey, Adrian, I love baseball. I appreciate good baseball. I believe in giving people credit when they get the job done. Dodgers did a great job. They played well. I don't know how much farther they can go with an injured Freddie Freeman. No Miguel Rojas, I don't think, and what they got on the mound. But we'll have to wait and see. Mets are playing really, really well. I really kind of thought the way we were playing, the Padres and the Mets, I thought both teams were really playing especially solid baseball. And I know the Dodgers, they had the second best record in baseball since the All-Star break. But how about the Padres? I don't want this to be forgotten on what the Padres did. And Abraham, I'll get to you here just a second. But second best record in Padre history this year, 93-69. They were 45-36 at Petco. Great road record, best road record, 48-33, 15 games over 500. And they finished strong. In September, they went 16-8. And since the All-Star break, they were the best team in baseball. They were 43-20. I mean, they got the job done and just couldn't come up. They just couldn't put the Dodgers away. And I'll tell you what, man, the Dodgers had a lot of heat on them. Whew. They had a lot of heat on them after getting beaten Game 3. Man, they were just getting beat up right and left. Abraham Ochoa, coach, we need a villain arc. I'm tired of us getting hit on the chin and not swinging back. I hate we let a team come at us, and our excuse are we are classy. Well, I think for the most part we are a classy ball club. I thought both teams had their moments where they may have showed a little bit of lack of class, but that happens sometimes. I'm a big believer. Let sleeping dogs lie. Don't wake up your opponent. And I think I don't know if that Dave Roberts situation with Manny Machado, I don't know what that did. Good, bad, or indifferent for the Dodgers, but it definitely took the focus for at least a day and a half off of the Dodger ball club and put it on the manager because he took a lot of heat. I don't know why that all transpired. I really don't know. But you know what? It just, fuels the fire for next year because we'll play the Dodgers 13 times next year, and I'll look forward to that. But Padres had no answer. They really had no answer. And considering, Tuesday night they went out there and they swung the hell out of the bat and they hung on for that victory. You thought they'd come out with a little more bounce in their step. Dylan Cease going on short rest was awful. Didn't pitch well in either of his outings in the postseason. And, his biggest deal is, I think, in between the years. He got to get himself a little bit better focused and deal with adversity a little bit more because you're going to have adversity out there. That guy's got big-time stuff, folks. Dylan Cease got big-time stuff, but he got to get himself together. He's his own worst enemy out on the mound. I mean, he's a guy that should win 17, 18 games a year. If he's making 32 starts, he's that good. Should have a sub-3 ERA. He got great stuff. I mean, there's not a guy on either roster tonight. Darvish pitched well, but Cease has got incredible stuff. He got better stuff than Yamamoto. He's got better stuff than anybody the Dodgers has as far as a starting pitcher. But he takes himself out of the ball games mentally, I think. He's going to have to get a little bit tougher. And some guys are just like that. Don, appreciate you coming in. The Padre bats just ultimately gave up and went non-existent. Yeah, I'd have to say so. This team is still far away from winning the championship mentally. Not there yet. Don, I think that's fair. I think their leaders need to step up. Obviously, Manny didn't have a good ball game either the last two games. This team, I don't know how well this team really deals with adversity. When things are going well, they're jumping around and high-fiving and bumping chests. But I saw no energy tonight. When they panned the dugout, everybody's looking like the season's over already. Got to get fired up. And even Mike Schilt looked like he was in a daze tonight when they'd pan him over there on the side. He had no answers. I mean, you got to keep talking and get up on that top step of the dugout and, make something happen. Not that Mike Schult's going to go to the plate, but man, I looked when they panned the dugout tonight. Man, the guys looked like they knew it was only a matter of time before they're getting ready to go play golf and go on vacation with their wife and girlfriend or whoever. It didn't look good, but I agree with you. Everybody tells these guys how good they are. Well, they are good, but you know what? You can't believe all your press clippings. You got to go out there and find a way to get the job done, and couldn't do it. Give the Dodgers credit, man. The Dodgers they had their backs to the wall, and they came back and smacked us pretty good. Hey, Coach, thank you for being a true gentleman, not being biased. I listened to you a long time ago from Los Angeles. Well, hey, you know what? I'm a baseball guy. I'm a sports guy. A couple things. Number one, I'm going to always give ball clubs credit. It's not easy, and I'm going to be critical at times. Long as guys are going out and busting their hump, I'm always going to be fair. If you're dogging it or lazy, you got a problem. I'm going to call you out. Padres just didn't get the job done. Okay, we can blame this guy or that guy or 38 other guys. We can blame the clubhouse attendant. He didn't polish Cronenworth's shoes right. At the end of the day, Dodgers were a better ball club tonight. They played better. They got great pitching, and the Padres had a chance to close them out. Not only did they have a chance to close them out, they had a chance to close them out in their own home ballpark after winning the 2 prior games and scoring a total of 16 runs in those prior 2 games. And then they go goose egg. Not only do they get shut out 2 games in a row, but you go back to the final 6 innings of that game when they scored 6 runs. They didn't score in the final 24 innings of the series, which happens to set a Dodger playoff franchise record. Now, think about that. Think about all the great Dodger teams of pitching in the postseason and all the great Dodger teams, period, going back to the 50s and the 60s. And they set a postseason record against us. Hey, we'll see what happens next year. We'll see what happens this offseason. We're going to know pretty much during this offseason what kind of team we're going to have. But I'm going to tell you this. Arizona Diamondbacks are going to be around for a while. They're doing a pretty good job over there. They got a good manager. I don't know how much money they're willing to spend, but they had a bunch of injuries this year like we did and like the Dodgers did. But their injuries were more significant than ours were, and they were right on our heels for the postseason. The other team, and I'm going to tell you what, we can laugh and talk about Bob Melvin. I know there are a lot of people out there that didn't think Bob Melvin did a very good job. Well, I would disagree. I mean, he got us to the NLCS in one of the 2 years he was here. He finished with over a 500 record both years. Granted, last year, 2 games over 500. Okay? But I'm going to tell you, with Buster Posey taking over as the director of baseball operations there, they're not going to let their fair-haired son flounder. They want Buster Posey to be successful, and I think the Giants are going to become a real player this offseason for the first time in a long time because Buster Posey's coming in, and they want him to be successful. He's their guy up there. They love Buster Posey, and they don't want him to fall flat on his face. So watch out this offseason for the San Francisco Giants. But, D, I appreciate that. KJ, we went further in 2022. This season was a failure. Well, KJ, here's the way you look at it. Number one, we did have the second best regular season record in franchise history. I don't think it was a failure. I think the last 2 games were major disappointments. The only time I'm going to ever, and I may never be able to do it in my lifetime, say the Padres had an excellent season is when they won the World Series. They had a very good season this year. Very good. Okay. I'm not going to say great. They didn't win the division title. If you win the division title, great. You had a great regular season, but it all comes down to the postseason. I really want that division title. Not that it means anymore. Yeah, you might get a first round bye, but I want a division title. I want to jump on top of the Dodgers one of these years, and we haven't been able to do it for many, many years. And we'll see where it goes. This was a great year. We blew a golden opportunity. We blew a golden opportunity this year by getting knocked out by the Dodgers. Oh, Coach, I still think you can point at the $300 million guys, but Trotter and Bogarts never showed up. No excuses. I won't argue that. Bogarts, he walked tonight, and that was his contribution offensively. Xander ended up 0 for 2 with a walk and a strikeout tonight. He's got to be better. He's not the same player he was in Boston. For whatever reason, I don't know. He's going to have to get better. And to be honest with you, I'd like to see him drop a little weight. I think he's gotten, maybe to try to generate more power. I'd like to see him drop about 10, 15 pounds to where he can move a little bit better. He's getting up there in years. Once you get past 30, man, you got to work out a little bit harder. Tough to keep that weight off. We all know that. I constantly battle that. Of course, I battled that when I was 18 years old. But at the end of the day, Machado, Manny ended up having a really nice year. A really nice year considering he had, shoulder surgery. But, Machado, one thing about Manny, when Manny really wants to play and get after it, he's one of the best in the business, but his mind wanders for me. There's some nights it looks like it's a real chore out there for him. But, hey, he is the leader of the ball club, and guys are going to follow him. Kevin and Chula Vista, oh, my goodness gracious, Kevin. I appreciate that nice contribution. That's very kind of you. The playoffs are a brand new season, no question. LA scouted the Padres and knew more about the Padres than the Padres knew about themselves. LA was smarter and better. It's the hard truth. I'll tell you what, Kevin, you bring up an excellent point. They definitely had a game plan. And, Dave Roberts, as we talked about earlier, he takes a lot of heat. But I'll tell you what, those last two ball games, Dave Roberts knew exactly what he was doing and when he was going to do it. And you got to tip your cap to him. But you know what? He could have made some of those moves. They could have backfired. His players executed. They executed. And I thought it was really interesting, something that probably went unnoticed by most people, is that they took Freddie Freeman out in the ninth, and they moved Kike Hernandez from center to third base. And that ball ended up going to third base two different times. They had Pages out there in center, and they took Freeman out of the ball game. The other night they started Chris Taylor. He struck out 4 times, but, he started at third, went to center, and they were moving Kike and Chris Taylor back and forth all night long. And, Dave Roberts, a lot of the moves, man, he had the Midas touch this series, no question about it. Mike Schild had no chance tonight. He had no chance. You know why? He didn't get to manage tonight. He was like you and I. He was sitting at home with his scorecard. At least, he had a scorecard, but he was like you and I. What was he going to manage tonight? He had nobody on. And the only time you had guys on, Fernando hit into a double play. 1 out, and you got Fernando at the plate, man. You got to be licking your chops the way he's been swinging the bat. And all of a sudden, boom, 5-4-3 inning-ending double play. Those were the last base runners the Padres had. That was only the third inning. He couldn't even manage tonight. He had to sit there and watch a ball game. He could have had a hot dog and a Coke. He had no moves to make. I mean, the moves he made on the pitchers, they're pretty basic moves. You had to take Darvish out after he gave up the home run to Hernandez, and he did a heck of a job tonight. And then he brought in Tanner Scott to strike out Ohtani. That was his move of the night, really. Ohtani, boy, he had a rough night at the old yard. And that was what even scary. He didn't do squat, and the Padres still couldn't beat him. And Mookie Betts didn't do nothing. Think about that. Freddie Freeman had a base hit, but Dodgers only had 5 base runners all night. All right, Big Red Journeys. I know injuries happen, usually at the worst times, but how much blame can we put on Musgrove for not being there for Game 4? Well, it certainly would have helped. It would have helped, but again, you go back to earlier in the series when Joe got hurt. He gave up 1 run and hung in there and doing good and blew his arm out. That's the way it goes. Dodgers had more number of injuries than we had all year, but we're paper thin. Luckily Martin Perez came over from Pittsburgh. He wasn't pitching very well for them, and he came in here and found the lightning in a bottle. Pitched great. In fact, I think they probably need to think about re-signing him. Not going to give him a big deal. Gave him a 1-year deal. 34 years of age. Did a nice job. Don, what major changes does this team need to make in order to bring a championship to this city? Well, you always need pitching. But I want to know who the catcher is going to be. I want a good catcher. And don't tell me Ethan Salas. Okay, that kid he even hit 200 this year. If he did, it was right at 200. He good catch and throw. Guy's 18 years of age. He's a few years away. And he's got to prove that he can hit down in the minor leagues. He got some power, runs into one occasionally and hits doubles. He had a few home runs, but not many, mostly doubles. But he's 18 years of age. And I don't want to see that guy push through the system. I've seen too many good talented ball players with the Padres over the years. Under this administration and under prior administrations, they bring these kids up way too young and they blow them and they get ruined. So, I mean, what are you going to do in left field? What do you do with Profar? I mean, what do you do with Profar? I think that's a big question. I mean, you look at his numbers the last few months, he hadn't been good. He got off to a great start, but he hadn't been good. And good on base percentage during the regular season. Didn't do squat in the postseason at all. Jackson Merrill, hell of a player, man. Hopefully he doesn't have the sophomore jinx next year. I don't think so. I think he's got good work habits. Your infield's pretty much set unless you try to trade Cronenworth, which I think they'll probably try to do. Euthanasia. SD angered the baseball gods by trying to shut out the Dodger fans of Petco. You know what? Does any other team in baseball do that? That's what I'd like to know. How about if you're a baseball fan and you live in Anaheim? You're a New York Yankee fan. And, hey, I want to go to a good baseball game. I've never been to a playoff game, and I want to go to a playoff game. And tickets are available, but you can't buy a ticket because you don't have an address or a zip code for San Diego. You know what? First come, first serve. I mean, if I wanted to go to a game at Dodger Stadium and they did that to me, I'd say it's Bush League. So, I mean, I'm not a homer. I'm not a homer. I mean, I'm gonna always lean towards my home team, but I'm gonna be honest with you. I'm going to be completely honest with you. You don't think you could have sold that place out? You'd have sold it out quickly. But how many people are really going to come down? I mean, I wonder how many Padre fans actually went to Dodger Stadium. By the way, the attendance tonight, it's amazing. Every pitch in a postseason game seems like it's like the last pitch of a World Series game. I mean, there's so much behind each pitch. But tonight, that game went 2 hours and 26 minutes, and the attendance tonight was 53,183. I wonder how many Padre fans were up there. If I'd have wanted to go up there tonight, I would hope I could have bought a ticket. But if you're an Angel fan or, a fan of another baseball team, you just want to go to a playoff game and you can't, you live in El Toro, that's kind of Bush. You got to be able to go. I mean, this is America, man. But, hey, everybody, they can do whatever they want. It's their ball club. Kevin in Chula Vista, Profar's gone too. Aging and too expensive now for a lifetime 239 hitter. I'm not going to argue with you on that. You got to get better. Profar had a really nice year, probably the best year he'll ever have in the big leagues. Set a career high for home runs, RBIs. Is he going to do that again next year? I don't think so. I really don't. I really don't. Hey, I wanted to tell you, tomorrow we have one more game, folks. Not for the Padres, obviously, but we have one more game coming up in the ALDS. And, boy, this ought to be a heck of a ball game. You've got tomorrow. Now, make sure you understand this. This game was going to be played later in the day, but because of all the weather back on the East Coast right now in the Midwest, they moved this up. It's going to be 10:08 tomorrow morning, our time. 10:08 tomorrow morning. Game 5, you got Detroit, a center left-hander, Tarek Skubal. Right there is the best pitcher in baseball right now, I think, with Chris Sale, but this guy's healthy. Skubal, 18-4 on the regular season with a 2.39, going against left-hander of Cleveland, Matthew Boyd, 2-2 and a 2.72. Both these guys have pitched great in the postseason. Skubal, 2 postseason starts, 13 innings, given up only 7 hits and no runs. Doesn't have an ERA in 13 innings of the postseason with 14 strikeouts. And Boyd has pitched in 1 game. That was against the Tigers. 4 2/3, 4 hits, no runs, 5 strikeouts, a couple of walks. Going to be a heck of a game again. The winner of that will play the New York Yankees. And by the way, the NLCS will get underway on Sunday night up at Dodger Stadium. And then I believe game 2, I don't have it in front of me. It's going to be an afternoon game, believe it or not, on Monday. Going to be an afternoon game. So they're going to have a quick turnaround. But a rough one for our boys tonight. A very, very good, fun, entertaining season comes to an end as the Padres get beat tonight 2-0 by the Los Angeles Dodgers. Now, just a programming note once again, folks. Um, Not sure exactly what time and what days we're going to be continuing our podcast. We're going to be still continuing without a doubt. We got sponsors, we got a very nice listening audience, and if you've tuned in for the first time, make sure you subscribe and turn on your notifications because that way you won't miss any of the John Kentera show. And we're going to be talking a lot of baseball. I love baseball. I love basketball, football. We're going to talk it all. And of course, we'll always take your calls in to the program on our chat board. And one thing about me, opposed to a lot of talk shows, I'll be honest with you. A lot of talk shows they don't want to hear what the fans have to say for a variety of reasons. But you know what? I'm a guy that wants to hear what you folks have to say. I love you. I've always said my listening audience is an extension of the Kentera family. And I'm sorry to sign off tonight saying that our Padres got eliminated from the NLDS. But at the end of the day, there was a lot of upside to this ball club. But man, this was the year we could have got the damn Dodgers. This is the year we could have got them and got to the World Series. We came up short. Got some guys weren't able to get the job done, and give the Dodgers credit. They got the job done, and they'll move on to take the New York Mets. But thanks again for tuning in. Thanks for being with me. And again, make sure to subscribe to the John Kentera Show YouTube, San Diego Sports Talk, and we'll be talking to you again really, really soon, early in the week. Have a great weekend, everyone, and thanks again for tuning in. Very much appreciated. Goodbye, and have a great weekend. Bye-bye.